Hi, and welcome to another edition of our People First interview series, where we shine a light on great companies that not only do interesting and cool work, but most importantly, recognise the value of their people. I'm Pete Sanders. I'm the co-founder and director of Identifi Global. We're a market leader in personalised career management and talent acquisition, specialising in the recruitment to the legal tech and legal services market with great candidate experience guaranteed. I'm honoured today to be joined by Simon Farthing. He's the Commercial and Marketing Director of LexisNexis. If you're listening to this and you've not heard of LexisNexis, you're probably on the wrong podcast or you're new to the legal tech market. LexisNexis is an award-winning legal tech solutions provider, and they have a range of legal products and solutions that span legal drafting, research, practice management, news and media analysis. Simon, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning. Nice to speak with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to have you on, and I'm sure most people know about Lexis. So we won't go too much into who you guys are at the moment. But more importantly, tell us about you. You started life as a lawyer, didn't you?
Yeah. I've done the sort of the ultimate detour route to career outcome, really. So yeah, I started life at the coalface practicing law, leading legal teams and kind of working in the space I now serve, if you like. Along the way, a bit of project management, then a bit of IT leadership. So shifted across, so within practice, shifted from practicing law to actually leading an IT function, supporting a law firm around innovation and delivering software and kind of making the stuff that we did as lawyers and the way in which we did it linked together in a meaningful way. And kind of solving the problems from real world tech, which kind of takes me to really what I do and what we do at LexisNexis, which is kind of to make solutions for people in the legal space.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've noticed more than any other industry is that you get people within the tech space, you get people that come from that legal background. It's not like that in any other sort of industry necessarily. So it is quite unique in that sense. So and it clearly makes a difference to the success of the legal tech businesses for sure. I'm keen to keep COVID-19 talk to a minimum. I'm trying to ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen. So, but I think it's good that we share a little insight. And I know things that have remained relatively the same for you guys and your team. So, you didn't furlough anyone, is that right?
No, we didn't. I mean, I have to say, we're very fortunate because I know a number of our clients, I know an awful lot of businesses have had to take that really difficult decision. For us, I think where we came into the lockdown is if you look at us as a solutions business, so not only do we deliver software, we also deliver consultancy services that support that and the successful adoption of that. And I guess when we first came into it, the biggest challenge we had was for the people that delivered consultancy, delivered solutions for clients, because their role is they spend an awful lot of their time on site working with clients, and they need that interaction, they need to engage. And of course, those sorts of projects, not only how we were going to deliver them was affected, but also how clients want to engage and consume with them was affected. And I guess the third layer was that some law firms have traditionally worked with mixed home working, remote working, agile models. For others, and particularly with local government as well, who we serve, it was the first time they'd had to effectively pick up their staff and put them out into the world and continue to deliver what they did. So priorities changed. So I guess we were hit initially by the fact that a large number of the projects we were working with needed to either stop, be rethought, priorities needed to be reset, which meant that we potentially had people benched who would have been on active projects, which for any business is a challenge. And I guess we were fortunate that as LexisNexis, our view was that it's about keeping the gang together as much as you can and preparing yourself to come out the other side, and very quickly working out what you can do differently and what the people you've got can do, who maybe can't do what they were doing yesterday, can do tomorrow, that continues to add the value. So guys who weren't actively able to carry on with projects shifted into working on enhancing existing products to get that ready for launch. And those that were working on projects shifted to other projects where the client maybe needed a bit of support. How do they then help to better enhance their platform for remote working? So I think it was about being smart. I think it was about saying to teams, what can you do to make sure that you keep driving forward in the right way, given everything's up in the air. So we were very fortunate. We very deliberately, though, said we need to keep the gang together. And as long as this is painful for us and our clients, being here and being there to serve and support gives us all the best chance of coming out in the right way. And I think we were fortunate to see that come the summer, there was a pickup and some reprioritization with clients and their projects, some commitment to some things that became business critical for them as well. So we rode a bit of a wave. And of course, we've had lockdown 2, lockdown 3, but the same rules apply. Just keep the gang together and keep finding value.
Yeah, I think it's, you're fortunate, in that sense. So, but I'm imagining that there was a moment of, what do we do? And so, and I think it's that one thing that I've experienced by speaking to other business leaders like yourself about, how they communicate. What was the initial thought? What was the process you guys went through? You mentioned some of it there in terms of, okay, what can you do, etc. So just give us a bit more insight into that in terms of the conversations that are being had. What was, your disaster recovery solution, if you like, and how did you communicate with them? First lockdown, second lockdown, third lockdown.
I guess the key bit with all of this is to over communicate. Almost to the point that things start to become quite painful. So we have a lot of internal communication channels, and that's using tech that's appropriate to the teams and the way that they work. So bearing in mind we're a mixed bunch. So we've got the technology specialists, we've got the developers, we've got the support teams, the consultants, and then we've got client serving teams. So sales teams, consultancy and advisory teams, pre-sales, those sorts of folks. So everybody's model of communication is different. So I think the key thing was over-communicate, find the right channels for the way in which people want to communicate with you and you with them. And we've done a lot of stand-ups. We've done a lot of sessions where we do Q&A. So on a Friday, we put the leadership team up on a Zoom link or up on a Teams link, and we invite as many people as possible using Slido. So raise your questions. We don't actively filter them. If it's in your thoughts, come and share them, ask us about them. And I think we've done our best to answer those things honestly, but it also has given us that gauge and that filter to hear from people about where their concerns lie. And it's incredibly true that when you move to a situation like this, you become more aware of everybody's circumstances. I think there's probably folk that you didn't know what went on behind the veil of home life. But you start to become very close to understanding that those who've got to home tutor children, those who've got partners who work away from home, or those who perhaps potentially their partners have lost work, those sorts of challenges become part of the communication and the understanding. I think getting to that and understanding that actually it's finding the flexibility for everybody and understanding what works for them. People who are more than happy to start their days 2 hours earlier, or maybe they need a break out of the morning to go and tutor the kids on that geography homework that they're struggling. Yeah. But finding what's right for people, over communicating, lots of Q&As, lots of updates, lots of all hand sessions where people get a chance to come in. And we'd had a great example for Christmas where members of different teams came onto video links and talked about what the last 12 months have meant to them, how they've dealt with challenges, what they've enjoyed, what they've hated. One of my team had their first child during lockdown.
Oh wow!
And yet, being one of our highest performers in the year. So, seeing the stories of them working with young baby in arms at the same time, very much brings the team together to say, look, we're a family. We've got to get through this together. I think that would be the essence.
Do you think that it's driven you closer to your team in that sense?
I think in a lot of ways it has, because those conversations have to become about the people. It's a very difficult balance, because when you shift into a remote working model, you almost can look at the task side of stuff. These are the things we have to deliver. These are the business objectives. And it can be very easy to distance that from the fact that there's people on the end of that and the way in which they need to be able to deal with those things. And if you become purely task orientated, you're just a voice in the dark telling people to work harder.
Yeah.
So I think when you bring people into that, what you get is a lot more creativity from people as well to say, hey, I'd like to see this challenge. So we've had lots of cross-party working. We've had lots of teams working together who perhaps wouldn't have done in the past, who'd be less familiar. Looking at some of our products, we were we've brought together each of the departments and people to represent, what we can do to enhance products for our clients from an experience perspective. It's a great conversation that's gone on in terms of doing that, and people starting to understand other people's jobs. And oddly, by removing some of those barriers and everyone being in everyone's home, I think that has helped for a lot of the teams, as you say, to bring them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think also that perhaps it's put additional burden on managers because they're having to take on those individual, whereas before, you came to work, you went home, and there was a shut off. Yes, you got to know them, and often it was maybe surface level conversations. How are you? How's the family? What did you do last night? Type stuff. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, you've got to take on all of these additional considerations before and manage that as well as manage, from a business perspective.
Yeah, I think you do. I think it has extended that piece a lot, and the stuff that you get, the osmosis effect. So particularly when you look at technical teams, support teams, development teams who sit around each other in a hub where they have daily physical scrums where they'll go into a room and they'll talk about solving problems. Things are overheard, things are shared. If somebody says, "Oh, you've got that challenge, yeah, I've got that over here," when you start to remove that, you have to proactively check in and say, "Are you okay? Are you seeing this?" You have to start looking at metrics a lot more and saying, "I'm seeing this happening over there. Can we grab some time to talk about it?" And I think that one of the early things we all saw was that sort of diary overload. The sort of, I've got back-to-back meetings where I'm checking in, talking to you, you're talking to me. I think a lot of people felt that early pressure of just constantly looking down a lens, talking to teams, and having these sessions. But like all things, it adapts and it changes. And I think as the year has gone on, people have got smarter with that. They've got more aware of the quality of the meetings they've had. And actually, a success story for us has been our support team, who generally, because they've all physically sat together for so long, putting them into their homes, we thought that would be a key area of concern. But the team managers there, the feedback has been they're all very good at using Messenger, sending notes to each other, creating team spaces to work and collaborate in. And actually, the productivity of that team has gone up because they've actually found that tech supported them in being a community more, and they're deliberately asking questions and making themselves do the things that perhaps we would have overheard in passing previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how has all of this affected your part of the business? I mean, Lexis is a huge organisation, but perhaps you can talk from your part of the business. Has it been time for pause, panic, or progression, or all of those things?
So I know specifically our part of the business is the enterprise software division. So the big scale stuff that supports the law firms. And generally our projects are big, they're longer term, they're very technical. And I guess the challenge that we face with that is that if you're somebody committing to a substantial spend, a long-term project with lots of touch points, so you need, from a client perspective, you want your SMEs involved in the project to make sure you're delivering the outcomes you want. To do that when they're spread to the four winds, it makes those things harder to do. And I think the challenge that we saw very early on was around actually, how do we get our clients in a space to be able to work with us better for these things, to take their projects forward? We were very lucky. We had a couple of projects where we, in very early engagement, we hadn't physically met what are now clients, the people that we were dealing with, which meant, and that's so important in what we do. It's a relationship business, so to not physically meet them, not to shake their hands or look them in the eye and talk to them about what they're trying to do, it's very difficult. But we've had a couple of those situations. We've run the whole project from end to end just using video, and the relationships have built up in the same way internally that they have. And we've been able to help clients focus and prioritize on the right things. And clients have made those commitments in lockdown, where initially I think there was some concern, do we do this now? Do we wait? Do we pause? They've made a commitment to move forward. Now, of course, every client has had the ability to do that because of their own circumstances or their markets. Some clients have perhaps taken a cautious view to pause. The view that we've taken is for ourselves, we've been developing a new technology platform over the last 24 months. And we had a view, do we come out of cover with it? Do we launch it? Do we tell the world about it? Do we engage with clients? Do we wait? And what we've actually done is we've launched our platform at the back end in Q4 last year. November, we launched our new platform, which has meant that during that lockdown period, the guys have reset priorities, looked at how that platform better helps clients with the problems that they've now faced, and focused and invested and driven that forward so that it puts us in a much stronger position to be answering problems as we come into 2021.
So you actually use this time quite wisely then. You use this time to I guess, adapt and develop your products and services.
Absolutely. And I think it's been around with everybody being involved, getting everybody's input to that and getting people bought into the objective to say, okay, guys, if we can do this, then we may have some tough months ahead. However, this sets us up with such a great foundation that we've become incredibly important and relevant. As long as we can support each other and support our clients through the difficult patch, we're stronger when hopefully for all of us, this starts to disappear into the past.
Yeah. So you're obviously taking time to develop your products and services, and what have you done for your customers during this time? And I can personally thank our suppliers. I mean, they've reached out to us and they've done everything they can to physically help us, and we've tried to do the same. So, how did you, or how have you helped your customers during this time?
I think it's fair to say it's been different depending on the client. So for different clients, different circumstances, I guess the first answer is to listen, to make sure that the accounts teams, the people that work with the relationships and support clients, have made contact in a number of different ways, checked in to see where we can help, specifically looks at the knowledge that we've picked up around problems to say, we think these are the challenges we think your business may face. Do you need our support? Very early on, we had a project where a client was struggling to make that rapid transition to home working. Right. So we looked at consultancy, which was a set of a team of people working with the client to say, based on what we know of you, these are areas we'd focus on, and giving advice and guidance and trying to help them get to the outcome they wanted to. For other clients, it's been taking a practical view to the way we deliver projects, a flexible view to maybe prioritizing things, postponing things, or bringing things forward so they can really get focus on where they can get the benefit. But it's mostly been about communicating and listening and saying, is there something that is there a problem coming for you? Is there a problem you have right now? To make sure that we don't, A, make things worse for them, and B, that where we can help, we're bringing them out the other side with us. So it's been lots of different things for lots of different people.
No, I think that's important. I think actually by asking the question, rather than waiting till the problem happens, is, most business leaders, will be looking ahead and thinking, what's ahead as opposed to what's here and now. And, the problem isn't always the one that they've got today, it's the one that's coming. So I think that's a really, really fantastic approach. And, not everyone does that. And, I think that's definitely something people can learn from you guys, as a large organisation, because sometimes small organisations don't think, they necessarily look inwards most of the time, and large organisations tend to look outwards more often. So I think that's critical.
Well, I mean, we're here ultimately because, as you said there, we're here because of our clients. So if they don't thrive and survive, then neither do we. And I think one of the things that so strongly comes through is we take a lot for granted. So a lot of our products have been developed over a number of years. They're very rich in capability, and it becomes that time where you realise that perhaps some of the things that they can do for people are forgotten. So actually, a useful area, we've had some of the guys doing videos and doing blog updates and trying to provide information, almost to say, it's very easy to say I've got a problem and I don't think I've got a solution, and then you go hunting a solution. Quite often we've found that solutions already existed in stack, and if not our technology, maybe a partner, maybe somebody that we know, somebody we've worked with, and it's almost going back and refreshing and saying, take nothing for granted. You might not have to spend a single penny. Look at what you've got, and then think about how you can better use that. And sometimes the simple solutions are already there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the reasons I started doing this in the first place, really, is that, the feedback we've had lots of times is that, it's quite nice to hear that other people are having the same challenges as us, or actually taking some of the things, the benefits they've done. Some of the, everyone makes mistakes, everyone does things wrong. And, by doing this, it helps our customers and helps them develop. And and helps them, realise that they're not on their own in this, and actually they are doing really great stuff, and they just don't realise it because
absolutely,
yeah. So I mean, clearly you guys have been successful, and there's been opportunities as well as some downsides, but clearly you benefited from that, from your approach. So why do you think you've been so successful? Is this down to your people?
Yeah, I think ultimately relationships and people are what drive great business. We have the figure is around 60%. 60% of our staff have been with the business over a decade.
Wow.
And people tend to come, find a home there and stay here and develop their careers. Lots of people have also come into roles and developed and worked their way through the organisation. So some familiar faces that maybe 10 years ago were working as part of a support team are now in senior management roles. So we do see that career development with people and the longevity. And I think because of that, people are invested. They believe in their products. They believe in their clients. And when we grow the teams, for us, that becomes the critical piece about we want to add, we want to enrich what we have. We want to bring people into that to support in new areas where we don't have maybe the knowledge or the insight to grow what we've got, but to maintain that hub and that core and that mentality of working together. So I think absolutely people will drive the success of the business. And we've got some great examples of people who, over the last couple of years, we've had a number of business changes, reorganized the structure. People coming to the fore, people who've been in the business a while saying, actually, I've got something here I'd love to do. I can solve that problem. I can see a different way of doing it. And so from an innovation point of view, when you find those innovators in the business, that's what helps you achieve that success.
Sorry, and I was just going to say it's easier said than done, really. Is building that, and I think that's the utopic view that every organisation wants. But creating that environment where people can. In fact, I posted about it recently around autonomy, mastery, and purpose. They're the three things that people look for most, or desire most. Even if they don't think it, it's when they get it, that's the thing they realise they're in something that they love. So. Money, salary is one thing, but bonuses and that are another. But if you can give people those three things, then they tend to feel rewarded. They stay longer. They're higher performers. They feel like they're adding to the business. They feel like they're part of the purpose. So, I mean, on that note, what sort of key things do you look for? I mean, because like I say, it's easier said than done. So, when you're recruiting, or part of the LexisNexis, key competencies, what are the key things that you look for in individuals?
It's an odd one. In a way, I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day about the sort of profile of some of the people who've grown the most and who've been the most successful. And with a large organisation, you tend to think of people being perhaps slightly less hands-on, perhaps more of a management structure, more of separation in terms of task and activity. But actually, when I look at us as a business unit, we're very hands-on. We're very close to our clients and to the work and to the projects. And I think people who are prepared to pitch themselves in without barriers, who actually see that they're part of this and they can be part of the solution. So we look for people who are innovative. That's easy to say, isn't it? Everybody wants to innovate, but that comes across very quickly in terms of how they see a problem. And so we love people just to say, this is how I see it. This is what I think I could do. This is what I could do differently. This is where I could make a difference. I think it's people being straightforward. That actually our clients, and the reason that our clients and a large percentage of our clients have been with us, again, like our staff, for over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the reason they stay with us in the tech world is because I think they value us as a trusted advisor and that we're there to support them. And I think people who come in with that mentality of, I'm here to support the client, what's the best outcome? How do we work together? So approachability and openness is so key, because then you remove those barriers and clients can feel part of that community. And we've always taken the view of it's a community, it's our clients and us working together. So if you come in and you have that sense of being part of that community and you're open and you're prepared to take it, not necessarily saying my role is to, all I do is this, to say, how can I make a difference? That comes across very quickly, and the people who do that are the people that tend to be successful with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 10 years is unheard of in today's world, in any industry really. It's very, very rare. So, some companies will say, yes, we've got someone who's been here 30 years, but it's not, probably the cleaner or something like that. So, but in a technical environment, in a fast-paced moving world such as technology, and such a rapid growth area as legal tech, that's fantastic. And I spoke about this the other day with somebody else on another podcast around, if you had a good culture to start with, taking it online and remotely is easy. If you had the bad one, then you get all these people doing these random quizzes and having to wear a silly hat, and you've got people, you can see them on the call thinking, we've never done this before, So, if you could summarize your culture, before the pandemic, what would that be? How would you describe your culture?
I think there's a lot of good humour in the culture. I think people are, we were originally, and I guess the development team predominantly and the support teams were based in an office in Leeds. So a lot of people are very familiar with working together, sharing a space, and it's a talkative community. So people again know each other well. They'll communicate with each other. It becomes a space where there's a mentality towards work hard, play hard, and I think we've seen that through the life of the business, that people have had that mentality. What I think is interesting though is that a lot of, and myself included, I don't live in Yorkshire, although before this I was spending probably 2 or 3 days a week, in and out of clients in the area and into the office. But I think what happens in that broader community, people are brought in and they become part of that. So it tends to become more consuming, that you understand what's going on and how the business operates, and people get involved as much as they can with each other in activities within teams that occur. I guess in terms of a culture, the culture was born, probably when the company started up sort of 20 odd years ago. That formed as a small organisation, small startup, hub around legal tech. And I think what's been good is it's been able to grow out from that over that period of time. And people, I've been with the organisation going on 8 years now, but actually coming into the organisation 8 years ago as a newbie, with people who'd been there for 15 years or more, you build on that culture, and we continue to maintain that mentality of straightforwardness, openness, say what you think kindly, listen to others, and be prepared to get your hands dirty for everyone to see that everyone's pitching in.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think to be able to put a point on it, I think is fantastic. A lot of companies have lots of these fancy buzzwords written all over the wall, and you walk in there and think there's nothing like those things on the wall. So their comments, the ones you just identified there, I think they're ones that sound like that's how it feels to me as well. Just from speaking with a few people in the organisation, I think that I get that sense as well. So it sounds fantastic.
Well, it's funny. We did the process about 4, maybe 5 years ago now of assessing our culture. As I think most organisations, you touched on it, most organisations almost do that cultural piece, and you start to then come up with words and expressions to talk about what you do. But actually, it was the simple stuff. It was you need to trust each other. We need to be open and honest with each other and be friendly and approachable. It almost became about being what good citizens look like. And the rest, being proud and taking pride in what you produce and making clients want to use very simple stuff. And yes, we probably, like most large organisations, have cultural values on a wall, but the reality is that those simple things about being good folk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did the same thing back in 2019, and as business leaders, we wanted to. Certain keywords, ones that you think sound good, and and then when you let them play out, and we had similar. It was humour, it was quality driven, and it was being data driven, and they were the things that just kept coming out, and we didn't prompt them. So it's always fantastic to see that, and such positive ones to come out, of those, because if you sometimes we give teams the opportunity to present some words, they're not always going to be the ones you want to hear. So. So moving on a little bit, you you guys obviously got your finger on the pulse from a legal tech perspective. So, what trends are you seeing in the legal tech space, and how are you guys placed to handle that?
So I think it probably all covers under that sort of phrase of agility. So people are expecting to be much more flexible, flexible in terms of where they work, how they work, when they work. So agility has been key. I guess the second area, of course, is collaboration. Mm-hmm. So how do we now meaningfully engage with each other and our clients and our clients' clients? So, obvious things that everybody's been doing, the adoption of video technology, and that's worked reasonably well for some, fantastically for others, and maybe not so well for a few. But it's been about how do you move that as a distinct and separate piece? How do you make these technologies more part of the pane of glass, so they become part of an experience? So you remove the barriers. The technology enables you to talk to somebody, but how does that tie into the work that you're doing? Mm-hmm. So if I'm using Teams, I'm capturing information that I would perhaps previously have caught when I was sat in a meeting, or maybe I've shared via email. So I'm not emailing a client, I'm chatting live with them. Or I'm saying, how does that get brought into their case files, into their matters? How do we actually start to make that process joined up in a way that hasn't been? So embedding technology to improve communication, as opposed to creating another layer that now I need to remember to. Because I think the thing that strikes me back from when I was practicing law was you have a lot of tools and gadgets and widgets to do your job, from timekeeping to financial management to document management to process management to date management, and you can end up with a lot of different things, which becomes a little bit overwhelming. What I think we focused on is call those things process optimization, call those things making the day better and easier. How do we make those intuitive? And then call everything else about relationship management, which particularly lawyers are very much face-to-face communicators. How do we make those things that have been removed more naturally part of that other process? So as I do something, the system is supporting and helping me. It becomes more natural and intuitive, as opposed to I now consciously need to open an app, open a system, record information, and it maybe then doesn't flow through on that data journey or that process journey.
Right, okay.
Moving those barriers between the two.
Yeah, fantastic. And what are your? I mean, that may have answered this question, but what are your clients demanding most from you right now?
So I think clients well understand that at the moment, it's a time where you have to get value from everything you do. So if you're investing in something, you need to see that return. So efficiency is key. So it's that increased demand for efficiency. I can't scale at the moment. I can't scale my team. However, there's an opportunity. I need to drive the efficiency of what I've got. So I need my team to get that lever to be able to, if they can do 50 files today, they need to do 70 files tomorrow without breaking them, keeping the quality and keeping them working forward. So becoming that lever to enable them, to become the multiplier that enables them to work without increased risk and without increased pressure, more effectively for more value. And I think also providing ways in which they can consume the technology in the way that they're now having to. So the ability to, we obviously are moving a lot more of what we work into cloud delivery models, because it's quicker and easier for clients to spin something up, easier to consume in different ways. It removes the barrier of, one business I was talking to was working on a build of a vast number of new laptops that they could deploy. However, the technology enables the clients to simply say, well, if you've got an iPad at home and we've got a secure method of authentication, you can consume the technology via your device. So removing the barriers of technology and device, removing those challenges perhaps traditionally as to how you work, but fundamentally it comes back to just making businesses efficient, making businesses profitable, helping them not to expend effort unnecessarily, so that they can work the hours they're working, which are now vastly changed. Supervision is a great one. So when you think about if you've got a team of lawyers working together, they would have a head of department, they would have a team leader that they've got immediate access to.
Yeah.
They haven't got that. So working remotely, how do you pull out key information about statistics and performance, about escalations. Well, the technology does that. So focusing on how the technology can help them share, there's a risk over here, let's identify that. Proactive supervision via the system, as opposed to the manager phoning around and saying, have you checked the court date? Have you got this filed? Have you responded? The system driving those behaviours and supporting them. So I think that those are the kind of the key areas.
Wow.
And again, it creates the virtual office, using the system to create that virtual office environment.
Yeah, seems crazy really that the legal profession is not more advanced in this space than it, considering the amount of information they have to consume, and it's very, I suppose it's very customer driven, isn't it? It's on a one-to-one basis, but I think they're realising now that there's lots of things that are repetitive and can be, streamlined and be more efficient, and which hopefully enable them to provide better services and probably a bigger customer base, through the adoption of technology. As a consumer of legal services, I would want things to be more digital personally, rather than having to go and sit in an office and when that was a thing, but to do that. So hopefully we'll see that. I mean, if we can, and I'm conscious of keeping these short because people like them short and snappy, but and maybe there's an opportunity for us to follow up on more of this stuff in the future. But if we can, two final questions, if you don't mind, Simon. So, what single piece of advice would you give your peers in the industry to help them navigate 2021?
So I think it comes back to the listening and communication piece. So are you hearing your teams? Are you hearing the challenges that they've got? Mm-hmm. Are you hearing the opportunities that they can create for you? So are you letting them solve problems, or are you directing them to do what you want them to do, or are you letting them become part of the solution? Mm-hmm. And applying those same rules to clients. Yes, we all want to help our clients right now in this difficult time, but are we actually giving them the opportunity to tell us those problems and then providing those reminders, those insights, communicating with them in a way that helps them to make some better decisions? So if you do that internally and externally, I think what that does is it naturally creates the opportunities, because you then focus your development of technology or your platform or whatever product you produce, whether that's services across the board, you focus that to what you're hearing. You focus that to where your teams can see the value. You focus that where your client needs you to go, and actually, which means you spend your effort in the right way.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, sage advice, 100%. And final question then, whatever your views are, pandemic to Brexit, what effect, if any, will Brexit have on the legal services market over the next 12 months?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, obviously this is a rapidly changing area. We learned about what Brexit actually means over the last few weeks. It's only just come to the fore in the middle of a pandemic, and it's almost been quietly pushed to the back of everybody's thinking, whilst something you can't simply remove. I think there's the practical barriers associated with it, the impacts around the way in which we handle and manage data. So from anybody who's providing tech in the cloud, there are a lot of changes to be aware of around jurisdictional components, data management, all those laws that exist. Some of the practical barriers that we expect to have within change and within that change around taxation and the way in which we can engage in into other markets. But I think the reality is that what we're delivering beyond those practical, functional, operational pieces is the same. We haven't changed the human issues that we were involved in before. We're solving the same problems. We're delivering the same value. So actually, as much as anything, it's an operational change. We just need to see and understand, as those rules get applied, what we need to do to remove the barriers. And it's what business does. Ultimately, business is great at seeing a barrier, and once it understands the barrier, working out how to work with that, remove it, and then keep driving forward. I think what's great is we now have got more certainty. We now have some definition around what our trading platform is. So we, as businesses, we can move forward with that. But what we do at the core is what we've always done, offer value.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Thanks for that, Simon. That's been fantastic. And if you're listening to this and you are interested in the legal tech or legal services marketplace, and you're looking to work for a company that really values their people, that gives you the ability to develop, grow, and learn, then you're not going to do too wrong by speaking to LexisNexis. They've always got lots of opportunities out there. So take a look at their website and see if there's anything that would suit you. And Simon, it's been fantastic talking to you. That was really, really helpful. I know you're busy, so I do value your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again sometime soon.
It's great. It's been a pleasure, Peter. Thank you. Much enjoyed.